I bought the cheapest smart camera they had, the kind with a plastic lens cap that clicks shut when you're home. It felt comforting to hear that little tick when I said, "Privacy mode on." It made an empty studio sound polite. On Wednesday, the app popped a notification while I was at work. Motion detected, 3:12 a.m. I hadn't seen anything overnight because my phone was on Do Not Disturb. I opened the clip on my lunch break, expecting car headlights or the neighbor's cat in the hallway. The camera's view was off by a few degrees more window, less door. And the status overlay said, "Privacy mode, off manual." Between 1:37 a.m. and 5:12 a.m., there were 7 gaps in the timeline. The cloud had nothing to show me. I was sure I hadn't touched a thing. Back in the apartment that evening, small things were wrong in ways you can argue yourself out of. The roll of paper towels had unspooled a little. The pan I never used wasn't quite flush against the others. My hoodie on the chair had its drawstrings knotted together. I told myself I was being dramatic and put the camera back where it should point. I changed my passwords. I toggled every security setting until the app forced a restart. Thursday morning, I woke to the smell of instant noodles. I don't buy instant noodles. It was faint, like a ghost of a smell. You could chalk it up to the hallway. I tugged open the cabinet under the kitchen sink. A paint can I use as a catch-all had a dusting of crumbs stuck in its dry ring of old enamel. That night, I sprinkled a thin layer of flour on the cabinet floor and closed it gently. I didn't know what I expected. Cockroaches, probably. It felt stupid even then. At 2:58 a.m., the camera clicked. I know that sound now, the lens cap unspooling. The app later showed the same status. Privacy mode, off. The live view froze, then restarted with the lens tilted down an inch, just enough to cut the cabinet out of frame. I was awake, in the dark, and I felt something that is hard to describe without sounding like a child. A ripple in the room that isn't air moving. In the morning, the flour had shallow scuffs through it, not roach feet, not any pattern you could joke about on a forum. It looked like knuckles dragging. I called the super. He shrugged and told me to call the police if I was scared. The officers were polite, thorough, and a little bored. They checked the door, the windows, and the fire escape. They checked under the bed because I asked, which humiliated me. They didn't check the ceiling. It's a drop ceiling, the kind with yellowing tiles you push up with 2 fingers. The hallway outside had one that sat a fraction low, enough to cast a line of shadow. I stared at it at 6 p.m., keys still in my hand. I stood on a chair and pressed up. Warm air, a draft that smelled like old food and detergent, a corner of a blanket, matted with lint. I climbed down and left the apartment with my backpack and my camera in my pocket. In the stairwell, I opened the app to turn the camera off, and the app told me, "Camera is currently controlled by guest." I never created a guest. The last activity log listed a device I don't own and a location that matched my Wi-Fi. I slept on a friend's couch, then returned with a locksmith and the super. We changed the deadbolt. We swapped the flimsy screws on the strike plate for 3-inch ones. The super knocked a few tiles aside in the hallway and said there was evidence of vagrancy. A water bottle, a granola wrapper, a foldable utility knife. He used the word like it was an explanation. That night, in my newly secured apartment, the camera clicked twice in the dark. A soft, mechanical blink. The lens cap stayed closed. In the app, a new scheduling rule had appeared under automation. Privacy mode on when home. The rule name had a smiling emoji I never use. And I know this is irrational. I know it is. But the name of the network at the top of my phone, the one I've never been able to change because the building set it up, flickered between my unit number and guest. Like someone had gone back to the ceiling because the camera would be polite again. Friday night is a trap in Rideshare. Everyone's impatient. Half the calls are short, and the tips are promises more than money. I cherry-picked a ping a mile away because the rider had 5 stars and a profile picture with a dog. Headed to Lark Industrial, the note said. It's a business park that shuts down at 8 p.m. I almost declined, but the surge was orange. and car payments don't respect gut feelings. She slid into the back seat wearing a denim jacket and earbuds. "Thanks for coming quick," she said, not looking up. Her phone screen reflected in the window. The Rideshare app blew on one, a text thread opened on another. Two phones.
Work and
personal, she said when she saw me notice. The new destination came through 3 minutes later. Side gate B. Unusual, but not against the rules. The highway emptied into dead zones of fluorescent lights. Side gate B was a chain-link throat leading to shadow. My headlights caught movement beyond the turnstile, just a cigarette flare and the ring of a metal watch when the hand lifted to scratch. "Go a little past, then turn around," she said. Her voice had the cheerful patience of a person who routinely gets what she asks for. I flipped a U-turn one driveway early and pulled into a well-lit car wash, the 24-hour kind with cameras and coin machines and a sign warning that the property is monitored. "Oops," I said, forcing a laugh. "Missed it. This okay? What are you doing?" It was the first time she spoke with emotion. Tight, surprised. Her fingers pressed the lock toggle on her door. I heard the click, then my click overriding it. I keep the child locks on. It makes drunks less dramatic. "I'm just gonna call in to verify the drop location. They get weird about gates at night." I tapped the help button. The signal hung. She looked down, typed on the phone in her lap. 2 seconds later, the app told me the trip had been updated again. Meet at loading dock, lot C. That was deeper inside, past the cigarette. "I can't go into private property without a live pin," I said, keeping my voice even. "Company rules." "Then end the trip," she said. "I'll rate you appropriately." She smiled with her mouth, not her eyes. I ended the ride and stayed where I was for a full minute, windows up, doors locked. She didn't slam the door. She slipped out and walked away into the dark with her hood up, talking on one phone, the other still open to the app. The cigarette down the lane brightened, then died. The watch glinted again. I didn't move until a police cruiser cut across the lot and parked. The officer didn't get out. He just made himself large and obvious. Whoever was in the shadows stopped being a problem. Back home, I wiped down the back seat. Habit. A faint adhesive caught on my fingers near the underside of the passenger seat, sticky, fresh. I felt along the fabric and found a plastic disc the size of a coin, taped where you'd never see it unless you were kneeling in the footwell. When I held it to the light, it chirped. My phone pinged a notification I'd never seen before. "Item detected near you. This item has been moving with you for a while." It wasn't mine. It wasn't hers anymore either, but it meant someone had intended the ride to be a first step, not a one-off. I drove to the sheriff's substation, handed the tracker over, and filed the report that vanishes into a drawer somewhere. The deputy was sympathetic, unimpressed, and very sure that nothing would come of it. 2 days later, my porch camera recorded a car easing past my house at 3:11 a.m. No headlights, just the dull glow of a dashboard. In the still frame, as it crept by, I could make out a wrist in the driver's window, a metal watch catching the streetlight. He didn't stop. He didn't need to. He knew the way back. The text came from a number labeled Building Management, with a logo I recognized from emails. It pinged the tenant group chat and my phone individually. Unit 4, B, urgent leak from line above you. Please shut off. Bathroom sink, stop valve. Send pic to confirm. It was specific, and the picture they sent was one of those how-to graphics, an arrow pointing to a chrome oval beneath a sink. I replied, "On it, because water ruins everything in old buildings, and my floors are uneven enough already." The message came back fast. "Thanks. If it's hard to turn, use a towel for grip. Also, please keep your door ajar in case Super needs quick access to check pressure." The phrasing caught in my head like a burr. We don't have a Super on nights. We have a contractor named Marv who shows up when he shows up. I cracked my door anyway and slid the chain. In the bathroom, I reached into the cabinet and felt the valve. Stiff, than willing. I took a picture, sent it, and got a thumbs up and another instruction. We need to isolate main. Could you swing down to basement and look at blue-handled gate on the left? Send pick of position. I stood up too fast and hit my head on the sink. Stupid, but it cleared something. The number had no country code. The logo, now that I look closely, had a tiny mismatch where someone had copied the image and compressed it wrong. The red was a hair too orange, and no one from management ever says flat. Whoever was texting had said "you're flat" in the group chat, then corrected it to unit. Small, but sticky. I texted my neighbor across the hall. "Did you get leak message?" She replied immediately. "Yes, told me to open door. Also told me to go basement." We met in the hallway. Her door was on the chain, same as mine. Somewhere below us, something metallic clanged, then went quiet. The building made old building sounds all the time. This had intent. I called the real management number. A dozen emails had trained into my fingers. It rang too long and went to a voicemail that apologized for the hour. We stood listening to the stairwell, to the elevator cables hum. My neighbor whispered, "Should we check the basement anyway?" The text chimed again. "We really need that main off. Tenants above are flooding. Please hurry. Call 911, I said. My voice surprised me with how calm it sounded. Say someone might be in the building pretending to be management. We waited. I took one step down, then two, into the stairwell. The basement door was propped with a splinter of wood. It isn't supposed to be. In the concrete dust, fresh shoe prints overlapped and slipped. A man's voice echoed up, low and annoyed. "Try 4B, they're moving." We retreated and closed our doors, chains still on, hearts somewhere near our tongues. A minute later, someone tried my handle, with more courtesy than force, like a neighbor who didn't want to impose. They tried hers too. Then the splinter scraped free downstairs and the door shut soft as breath. The building went back to its noises. When the police came, they reviewed the hallway camera. The quality was muddy, framey, but it was enough. A man in a reflective vest and jeans with a contractor's clipboard went door to door and touched each knob. He had a set of keys on a ring as big as a bracelet and a star of little metal bits, bump keys. Likely, he kept his head down. He never looked up at the camera because he knew where they are in buildings like ours. He didn't get in. That should have made it feel like a near miss, the kind you turn into a story at dinner. But later that night, after the officers left and the adrenaline drained, my phone vibrated one last time. "Thanks for being proactive, 4B, the message read. A photo followed. Our stairwell from the landing, my welcome mat in the corner of the frame. It wasn't live. The angle was off from our cameras. Someone had taken it earlier when they came to learn how our building breathes.